Her sound is on.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Walls look good.
Pardon?
Walls look good.
Okay.
This meeting and the RDC meeting, it's the only one, and it's the top, it's, yeah.
Never get that.
For the whole time, was that? Okay. And then, were you able to find the other board that decided the councils? And commission?
Hey, John. Good morning.
He gave me the thumbs up, so my knowledge he is coming. Didn't say what time, but I took it. So I'll get it off.
I would call.
Thanks.
Ignore that call, Phil.
It was accidental.
Well, good morning, and we'll go ahead and start the
the workshop for the 2027 budget. I want to begin by thanking each of you for being here this morning, taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know Josh probably has some ball games to go to, and you all have busy Saturdays, because we try to cram in as much as we can. What we're presenting to you today is a balanced budget. Probably the two biggest increases, dollar-wise, is probably salaries. We're looking to give everybody the same type of increase that we did last year for this year, that we're going to give to next year. Percentage-wise, probably the two largest increases are our utilities and our insurance. Those are two things we really can't work around. But Ben has met with the department heads. We've met 3 or 4 times, put the numbers together, and with what income that we're projecting to get from the state, and with our expenses, it is a balanced budget. So with that, I'll open it up and just ask how do you want to go through it? Do you want Ben to go through department? Do you want to just handle your individual questions? What's your pleasure?
And I would like to see department by department.
Okay. Mr. Meredith?
Anybody else? How would you like to see it?
I'm good with that. I guess I do have one question, Mr. Mayor, before we begin. Just hopping into, I guess, page 7, I saw the transfers. We have a very large difference between the 24 actual, 25 actual, and there was nothing in the 26 budget, nothing in 27. I know we kind of discussed, but for clarification, that was just moving kind of money around, and that is hopefully going to be gone forever, right?
Once we switch to new software, that issue will go away. Yeah, you will actually see that in several different departments. There'll be actuals that won't be budgeted. With our current software, if we transfer monies, it goes to a clearing account and then it goes to the account that really should be housed in. We have to show it in our current software as an expense and a receipt. So you may see some line items that have expenses in the actuals, but nothing in the budget, and that's the reason for that. It's really just a moving of monies. So.
And I have a quick question, just looking at economic development, is this the time that we talk about the contract with the gentleman that we've contracted with for economic development? I can't think of his name.
Well, Mike Gallagher works, he's executive director for the Morgan County Economic Development.
Okay. We
are a partner with Morgan County Economic Development. The 3 main partners are the county, us, and the town of Mooresville. There's other corporate partners they have. There's 3 or 4 banking companies that give money, and there's some private individual companies that give money for their expenses, for their budget. So it's not that we've contracted with Mike, we are partnered with the whole Morgan County Economic Development.
I know myself and Phil Senior had talked that we were not happy with Mike Gallagher as far as his helping Martinsville with our economic development. And we weren't happy at all, and I really don't want to be a part of paying for him.
Well,
I think Mike came in at our request and talked to us on that. So sure to answer some of your questions on that. If you recall, he came in and presented some things to us, what they were doing and so forth. And I thought he answered your questions, but maybe not.
And with the $65,000 that we give as our contribution, our membership, whatever you want to call it, last year we had a pretty good sum that the Morgan County Economic Development paid for some advertising and some promotion of the city. One of the things we're looking for them that we get from the companies that want to come and put a hotel in, have you done a study? Do you know if Martinsville would support another hotel? Well, this hotel study is about 25,000, is that what the gentleman said back? So 25 to 30,000 for this study that will help us attract hotels to come in. The Morgan County Economic Development is going to pay for that for us. So if you factor that out, so now we're down to maybe a $35,000 or $40,000 contribution to them. So there are some things that they are doing. I know in the past, we're live streaming, and we got overlooked, but we never really pushed the issue with them. They are actually trying to find somebody that would be interested in the Fort Bear Fleet facility. So there are some things that they're doing down here, but for so long, it was easier to focus on other areas and not Martinsville. So I agree with you 100%, but I would say let's see what happens this year, and let's see if we can get some more for that dollar amount.
Thank you. Back in.
Let's go.
All right.
If I get up and go to that,
All right, let's start with page 7. 'Cause I know the budget looks a little different than what we've got in the past, so I want to make sure I walk through some of this. If I get going too fast, let me know. I have a tendency to blame you. So this will show your total expenditures for the budget proposed for 2027. You'll see compared to this year, the budget is actually going down 2.47%. So the proposed budget for 2027 is actually less than the budget for this year. So, and then with this, it's just kind of a breakdown. And again, I'm just going to kind of go through it because I know you have things going on today. If you skip to page 9, going over to page 10, you'll see that our proposed revenue and this is not definitive by the state yet, that gets finalized in August. But the preliminary numbers would be our revenue would be 12.9 million. So you'll see that it is a surplus budget. So, excuse me. So the plan is for us to start putting cash away in increments annually going forward. I know historically Martinsville at times has spent every dime that's come in. We don't really think that's a wise long-term strategy. So we'd like to start building up our cash reserves, especially with Senate on the Act 1 in the horizon. The more we can put to the side for later is the best. So there is a little bit of a gap. So I just want to bring that up.
Mr. Mayor, not to interrupt, but this is a conservative guess on revenue, correct?
Yes.
We're expecting potentially more, but approaching with a conservative view on that.
Yeah, taking the assessed values, we actually cut the assessed values by 4% to come up with this number. So depending on where the circuit breaker and everything comes in, we expect it to go up. But we'll know for sure in August, and I'll make sure you all are looped in on that. Then our first real true department is on page 16. Now this is our all-city utilities. This will be for our telecommunications, our phone system, internet, citywide, and also for our electric for the streetlights. You'll see the telecommunications went up pretty hefty just because we're moving in the past. Some of the electric we had by department, even though it isn't all city circuit. So we grouped that all together into one place because that's really, you can't turn one side off without breaking or affecting the whole system. So we put that all together. I will tell you, we are in the process of changing our phone system, so it's likely that probably will be a little aggressive on the number, but that hasn't happened yet, so we want to go to worst case scenario. I'll pause like 3 seconds for each one, and I'll keep moving, so just to keep things moving. Building inspector, code enforcement, that is found on page 19. Really the main difference on this page, you'll see telecommunications, that has gone down towards the bottom. Again, that's just moving into that portion to all city. Special prosecutor, we also don't have an ongoing agreement with the prosecutor, so their plan going forward is to just have a prosecutor on an as-needed basis. And then they trim down some of their other supplies as we reduce costs. Any questions on that? Clerk Treasurer Department's found on page, starting on page 23. Really, the details on page 24. Overall, it's a reduction of 5.38%. The majority of that is in our salary line. That's because historically our offices had 5 people. We've been going with 4, and that is going to be our long-term plan, is to just keep going with 4 folks, including myself.
Yeah, why is it so much higher? What is it's the salaries that's really pushed it to so much higher than 2025?
Yeah, so in 2025, we had only had 4. Historically, that office has had 5 people. We've had 4 the last few years, not knowing how that was going to work out. But we're just going to stick with 4. So that's why the actual is a little bit lower, because you budgeted for 5, we had 4.
Well, I mean, it looks like it's $50,000 higher for 2027 versus 2025. Is that right?
No, are you on page 24?
No.
I think one thing is we haven't had rents. You know, they were at the wastewater treatment facility, and now they're over there in a much better facility.
Right.
There is a rent.
That's right. Thank you.
Any questions on that?
Is the rent built into the building maintenance?
It is.
Do you know what the rent is for that?
It's $3,500 a month.
Is that one year? Is it renewed once a year or how long?
It is. It's an annual lease. All right, next department is city attorney. That's found on page 27. No change on that. It's the same contractual fee as what we've been kind of last couple of years. Judge Gerald, do you want to do your own department?
You can go ahead as long as you specify why it looks like it's so much in 25 with the transfer to the accounts.
Okay.
That, I think that is just really confusing to look at.
It is, yep, totally agree. So city court is on page 30 and 31, this really has the details. Everybody still with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as Judge Sherrill was saying, if you look at city court other, you're gonna see, like we talked about earlier, that transfer, your actuals are high, but there's nothing in the budget. And that's because any money that go into an account and then back out, our software just handles it as an expense, even though no money was spent, it's just moving of money. So, again, we're hopeful with the new software that will go away, because I know that is a little confusing. It's something we have done. State Board of Accounts is very aware of that. It's kind of frustrating on all of our parts. Any other questions on this page, or everything else is pretty?
Yeah, I do, Ben, on page 27, and just we've been looking at a couple other pages. Why is, maybe it's something I'm not seeing, but why is the year 2026 so much lower in expenditures than the others that are indicated.
So the main reason for that is we ran this report at the end of April, so you have a third of the year on that part of it.
And 2027 is a projection.
Correct. So your 2026 actuals, whenever you see 26 actuals, just keep that in mind, that's only to the end of April
Got it.
of this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually almost removed that entirely just because it's very confusing, because some of the expenses you'll see we front load, like our liability insurance we pay the entirety in January. So you're gonna see that expense just the full amount.
So that's on some of the other pages, where 26 is lower than it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not, so if you have any feedback on what you want to do with that going forward, let me know, 'cause I don't want to hold anything back from you, but it does cause a little bit of confusion, because some things we pay for the whole year up front, if we can, we do. Some things we get charged really at the end of the year, so it's gonna show zero, even though you're going to be paying that full amount.
Well, it's a good barometer for you to look, be able to see that if, and let's pick on city court. If right now we're at city court and we have $75,000 in expenses, I think we got a problem where we at. So if you look, it's just, a third of the year, we're well within where we need to be budgeted. Because it's kind of like when Ben gives us the pie charts, each month shows what percentage of where we should be on what we spend. That gives us a good detail outline of where we need to be, are we spending too much? I know, and I'll pick on the fire and police right now, that came in real helpful last year when, was it about September? They were right about 80% that they'd spent. They were able to curtail and come back at the end of the year and under budget, so.
Thank you.
Of course. City superintendent, we'll pick it on Mr. Dunn for a minute. That will be on page 3839.
Ben, real quick, just for clarification, that judicial salary on page 34.
Yes. Yes, actually, yeah, sorry. So you'll see on judicial salary on page 34, that is a supplemental for city court. You'll see the actuals for this year were at zero, just because that was an error on my part, so we fixed that. So that is a little bit of money that they get every year for that, so our plan is to help use that to supplement the city court's salary line. It's $5,000 a year, so it's not a huge amount, but every little bit does help. And then if you go to the next page, page 37, you'll see the record propitiation. I put in $25,000 annually. I know the software's not going to be near that much, but that way gives city court a little bit of flexibility in case they need it, in case something else comes up.
And that includes the 10,000 that the council will approve.
Okay.
The records fund can go to supplement anything that goes per statute with record keeping, so that can be a part of the lady's salaries, depending on the percentage of the work they do that has to do with storing records, document upkeep, scanning, things like that. So per statute, they're outlined of how you can spend those dollars as a city court, and it's a separate fund. But this is helpful because instead of having to come in front of you guys every time I want to ask for $2,000 to supplement a item, it suggested we just put the 25,000, because the 25,000 is a cap, I guess, for other departments. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that will be helpful. But this fund, we can't just spend this fund however we choose. There are certain ways per unit of you have to spend it, just to keep up to date, right? Regulations like I talked about last council meeting, document storage and retention, things like that.
So in the city superintendent's again, it's on page 3839. You'll see that Mr. Dunn is pretty vanilla really. We did trim that salary line just because in the past, historically Martinsville has shared an expense for a position of the executive assistant for the mayor. We've kind of broken that out because it was a shared expense, but that's not really how that position is used. So it was a little misleading in some ways. So we've kind of separated all that out so it's just a little bit cleaner on the salary lines. So that salary is truly reflective of Mr. Dunn. The only other changes were really software, hardware, just because we don't foresee any needs in that area for next year. And really that's the main changes in there. And council budget starts on page 43, goes into 44. You'll see that we've trimmed a few areas on that budget. The main reason, again, is we're trying to clean up some of our accounting. So if it's not truly an all-city function, we're taking it out of the council department. So you can truly see that it's something that affects the entire city. So like the safety program, we've reduced that line item by quite a bit because the safety programs that we do that are touching every department are small in nature. So if a particular department is doing more safety programs, they will be paying for it themselves. So it'll come out of their particular budget. That way it's not just kind of a big bucket that no one knows what's going on. So just part of the clarification process, trying to clean some of those things up. So that's why you'll see some percentage-wise substantial decreases, and you'll see some fairly large percentage-wise increases.
Mr. Mayor, on that, just to clarify, the salary entails the council, Board of Works, and the Planning Commission?
Correct.
Those three? Okay. And the common council budget is kind of a catch-all in regards to, for example, like the utilities and everything, that's for the city hall and like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Long-term plan as we kind of clean up our internal accounting system is, I'd like to, kind of like we've created the all city utilities. Long-term, I'd like to create something that's maybe just, I don't know if we call it city hall or what we call it, but just something we can kind of dial in more and more on things like this. It shouldn't be that we're looking at something wondering what all is included into it. So the long-term goal is for us to be able to actually look at every line item and it makes sense and we know that's for.
And then for the electricity and utilities, I know we talked, and you said that Duke was saying anywhere between 6 to 15% was the educated guess for next year.
Yeah. Fire department starts on page 47. I don't know, the chief, deputy chief, are you wanting to do?
Feel free, if there's questions, we'll answer. If we can't, we'll let you.
So they're gonna get sick of hearing me after a minute, so. All right, so we cut fire salaries by 150%. We did trim fire salaries. Fire and police are both on a hiring freeze. Fire has recently had 2 people that have retired and they have not replaced them. So, so that's reflected in here on why the salary line is going down. You'll see that trickle down throughout that, really that whole area with health insurance, spending, I mean, everything kind of trickles down to stay in line with that. Liability insurance, their liability actually has gone down and is projected to go down. So they're kind of the anomaly in that area. So that's the reflection there. And you will see the utilities, we are projecting 11% increase. That's just because cost of goods are going up in that area.
I do, Mr. Mayor, next year would it be possible for this to get a breakout between the salaries for salaries and overtime?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I do have a question for either Chief Green or Deputy Chief Aaron Fraker. In regards to the line item for clothing allowance, it looks like there's $25,000 allocated for that. Do you know what that would look like per firefighter, or if there's a specific uniform or attire or outfit that they need to buy that would entail that?
So a couple years ago, we were where each person got so much money per person. And it's now been changed. We would give them X amount of dollars. They didn't spend it, and they were given a check at the end of the year. So now what we've done is the city has decided to go ahead and pay for all uniform stuff. So as far as per person, that's not exactly the easiest thing to do because people have been here forever, may have plenty of uniforms right now. Those who come on board is gonna need a few more things. So in order to be able to say it's $5,000 per person, I can't do that. But it certainly helps, and we believe, based on what we're seeing, it's actually gonna be a positive for the city. So, and then that also allows for us to make sure that uniforms look good the whole time. You know, they're not ratty and all that. So, I believe it's gonna be a better situation for us. And it looks like that even though in 26 budget we have a high number, that's just because we made the transition. $25,000 should be plenty for us.
And to clarify, it's because we're moving over to a quartermaster system now. So the hope is that it's more of like an inspection-based system rather than using just kind of that check, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem with the former system is you were giving them uniforms, but also, like the chief said, at the end, if they didn't use all that, we're cutting them a check. So you're giving them items with, and at least in the same situation, you're giving them items with our logos, our materials on there, but basically giving them ownership of that. So if they leave our employment, they're walking around wearing your fire logo, police logo, whatever it may be.
It used to be the first thing, whatever was provided to you, you turned that in when you left. So you had to turn in your gear. Things you bought throughout the year, and that was on you, that you purchased, but whatever the city, they used to keep a lot of it. That first probationary fireman, policeman who came on board, they outfitted you with everything that you needed, and then you had to turn that in when you left.
Would we really repeat the pants though on people? I mean,
No, it's just put in the choice so it's not out floating around, but again, if you spit things throughout, I mean, that was yours, but you were required to turn in a set of things that the city, they kept a tab, they kept inventory of what was issued to you, and then you had to turn those things back in.
So when did that kind of change?
I don't know, that answer, I thought it was still going like that. Because they're correct, because what happened in your clothing allowance, basically what you did, they provided at the very beginning, and then everything else was on you, and your clothing allowance, you got that, towards December, one pay, correct? It wasn't twice, it was twice. Okay, so every 6 months, you got that, and, you did whatever, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people kept that, and they use that for expenses for other things throughout the years. You used to get so much money for dry cleaning too, to make sure that the uniforms were kept. Some people would use that for dry cleaning, and others, spending on whatever they want, you can tell they did dry clean the uniforms. But yeah, that's how it used to be, and it was important, like I said, you had to turn everything back in, but other things that you purchased up here, I mean, you purchased yourself, so I don't know. I don't know when that stopped.
So, Fire Chief Green, did I hear correctly that you are 2 people retired and you have not replaced them?
Right.
Are you able to function at full capacity with those 2 fewer firemen, fire
We
people?
have to be. We have to stay within a budget. So I would love to say I'd like to be fully staffed with more people, but right now we're making do. We just call in for more overtime if that's what we need. And then when we have more issues, then we'll come back to you if that's what we need to do. But right now, I mean, soon we're gonna be down another person and it won't take long. Coming into the first of 27, we'll be down another person just because of retirement. So we're gonna be faced with that quite a bit coming up. So it's just something that we'll have to address as it comes. And of course, I think we all cross our fingers hoping that there'll be, the situation with the bill, Senate bill, that it'll be better, but who knows? And right now, we'll just deal with what we have to deal with.
But the other thing, Ian, I think I see where you're coming from. Being comes back that when in 2020, January 2020, the number of employees that both the fire and the police had at that point compared to now, I think the police were one more, no, police were 4 more than what they had January 1, 2020. The fire still went up compared to when, I'll say, you and I came into office. So they're down from where they were, but they're not down from the 2020 benchmark.
But I will also say that we're running those up considerably compared to what we were in 2020.
Right.
So, and it's just part of it. We just deal with it right now.
So, actually, Green, I'll bring another question in with that. How are the hours remained? How are we doing on those? I know by law there's so many hours, some may understand, some may not. So that concerns me that if you're down, you're talking about that overtime. So if you have overtime, that means people aren't taking time off. And I know several years ago, we had to do a buyout to get people under that, and that was a lot of money. And I don't want to, I want to make sure we.
Are you talking about comp time?
Yes.
Yeah, see, our crew comp, the cat's out 480 no matter what. And that has nothing to do with their overtime. That's a separate area.
No, what I'm saying is overtime, because you have to call people out, people can't take their time off.
Oh, no.
I just want to make sure we're not getting over
Yeah,
that.
no, people take off. So what it is, so if I'm working a day, I take off, and they have to work overtime, somebody off duty will come in or whatever, they'll get paid the overtime, they're still able to take off, it's just more of a burden to the city. City's not,
Correct.
yeah, no.
And that's why I just want to check, because like you said, health administrations ago, we had to, you recall, we had to do a buyout. And
You won't have to do a buyout like
And
that.
that's why I just want to make sure that's still in
So
control.
the only buyout that I know of we did is whenever the guys retire and get the 480 hours, if that's the max they had, that's when you get paid out, but.
Yeah, well, what happens, they went over that 480, and we had a lot of officers that were over, we had to
Yeah,
get it back down.
I don't think it was our department.
Yeah. No, it's not during, while you're coming in there, so I just want to make sure it doesn't repeat itself.
Now, we don't allow anybody to go over 480, and if it gets close to that, we make them take off,
Good.
keep under it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Chief Green, what's your average shift number of employees per shift?
7.
7. And then what's your average shift? How many usually take off per shift on sit, PTO, or 2? Okay. So average right around 5. Is it common for 2 off?
Yeah, I mean, that's where they can get down to, yes.
Okay.
For minimum staff.
Yeah, in 2020, it was 4.
Okay.
Our minimum was 4. But with the increase in population and increase in run loads, we changed that to minimum of 5 to make it safer for our firefighters and city employees, or citizens. So now we'll make sure that no matter what, there can only be 2 people off, unless somebody calls in sick, and that's just part of it. Then that's going to be calling somebody for overtime, once we drop below the 5.
What's that look like apparatus wise? Do you usually roll 2 apparatus with 1 with 3 and 1 with 2, or try to stick with 5 and 1?
No, depending on the call, we, if it's EMS, I'm sure we get 2 people, and we try to make it to where we get as many runs as we can with the staff we have. So if 3 runs come in, you'll get 2 people on one run, 2 people on the other run, and 1 person going on the other one. With overtime, people being called out to come in if they're available. So we try to do what we can to separate that to make sure that the city's always got enough people around.
Coverage.
Thank you.
I got a question, and this, you have asked it before, but on the mutual aid, if we have 2 calls going out, we got 2 firefighters on each call, and we got a 3rd call coming out, that's mutual aid, will we take that and have to call somebody in for overtime?
Yes. However, that generally doesn't happen very often. But realistically, I can't say that we've ever just sent 1 person out to a mutual aid run. We normally will end up calling because they're really good, we'll call an overtime anyway, so when somebody gets there, then we normally send a minimum of 2 people out. And then that's the minimum. But generally, like right now, if the run came out, 3 or 4 hours we go and get that situation out of the way and get back. That way, they're not there for 20 hours trying to do something.
Do you guys know what percentage of your run loads mutual aid? Off the top?
It's kind of pretty slim. If you start looking at it, I mean,
We probably receive more mutual aid
Yeah.
right now than we give.
yeah.
So, what was it, a month or two ago, the council passed ordinance to where you can charge for lift assistance.
It's amazing, we haven't had very many of those.
Oh, yes, okay.
I did have a conversation with the facilities, and I have not been told back from our staff that the run incident has changed. You know, like, now we have somebody with compromised airway or something, and it's really just lipstick, so we're not seeing that. So it seems to be working out.
Just one.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the nursing homes, right?
Assisted living.
Assisted living, okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna skip pages so we can stick with the same department. So if you look at your table of contents, I have it grouped out by revenue sources, so that's kind of why it jumps around a little bit. But so we can stay with fire, we're gonna jump to their lowest, which is found on page 90. So this is not funded through the general property tax. This portion is funded through the local option income tax. So, and this only goes to supplement fire and police. So if you go to page 92, 93, you'll see that fires, and I apologize for this section, it printed backwards, whatever was white, so I'll fix that for next time. But you'll see their 2027 budget is actually a little bit less than their 2026 budget. So it really doesn't change a whole lot. We've just reduced some expenses that may be allocated some other places. Gas and oil, we've trimmed that down just because that did capture some maintenance in the past, and so we kind of cleaned that up a little bit. And they have newer apparatus, so that's trimmed down some of that. We've also trimmed down tires and lubes. Again, it was a little bit over budgeted, what we're finding, but overall that section went down $6,000. So it's a pretty stagnant budget change. Any questions on that? Because fire budget come around a little bit, so.
And just for clarification, this Lloyd is what is going away potentially in 2028?
Yes, it's in Enrollment Act 1 in its current state. Local option income tax will go away in 2028. Entirely.
And this is something that we're in discussion with the county potentially on the EMS lit. That's
Correct.
going to be a replacement there.
Correct.
We've got meetings scheduled October.
We have, so the state has mandated that the counties come up with what's called MUST, which is basically a task force. And what that requires is all the fiscal officers of each municipal entity, plus the mayor and commissioner will be involved also, to basically come up with a proposal and get that back to the state. That's due by the end of October. We haven't met yet, but it's a requirement on the county. Obviously, we want to make this happen also because not only is the local income tax something that we need to negotiate, but this EMS lit, which are two separate things, that also needs to be discussed and come to an agreement. Because obviously, on the fire side, it's $400,000. On the police side, it's $1 million. So we're talking $1.4 million of potential revenue that we need to replace somehow, some way.
I just have a question for police, because you took my brain. The EMS, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, fire chief brain, I'm sorry about that, sorry. I haven't had enough coffee this morning. When you go on an EMS run, does the county EMS also go?
Yes.
So there's two of you going on an EMS run, right? Two
We're
departments?
the transporting agency, and then we go in, and oftentimes we get there before them, and we're also there for assistance, yes.
Okay.
That is, Chief Green, is that required? Do you have to have a paramedic and an EMT with you, or could you just run that straight out of an EMT with all EMTs?
We're just EMTs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And through the state, cities and towns and townships, they don't have to provide EMS, they just have to provide fire. What the county getting, the county EMS tax, the county's got to provide EMS. So we go because we can help out, but we also go because in the past, we've been problems with EMS services not being here. 20, 30, 40 minutes, you'd be waiting for an ambulance. Somebody's got to render some kind of care. So that's what we started doing in the 90s, was going to do this because we had so much lack of ambulances around the county. They're still on Brown Township or working with them. And then I can tell you now, even with the ambulance services that we have, there's times that we're still running short because there's so much going on. So it's one of those things where it's something that we still have to be there because we don't know if the ambulances, we know there's one coming, but it's going to take a while because they're so busy throughout the county right now.
And that's one thing we need to be thankful the county's doing it, because they've got a new facility in Paragon, and then if you'll notice, a new facility up in Centerton to help make sure they've got coverage throughout. They didn't have to do that, but they know that they needed to.
Now, does Washington Township also go out? Okay, with EMS service?
Every fire department in our county goes out with EMS runs.
Okay. And they're also doing the mutual aid too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, so I'm gonna have you now skip to page 139. And this is the Coon Capital Development Fund. So again, it's not property tax, this is a separate revenue stream. So I want to bring attention to this because this, and I'll flip back and forth a little bit. So 139 and 144 kind of combining forces on this one. So in the past, we've used CCD for our apparatus payment, our lease payments. So we saw a lease payment on the ladder truck that expires in 2030. So the main change we're going to see this year, and I've highlighted in yellow, what we'd like to do for the next couple of years is double pay on this lease agreement so that we can pay it off early. We'd really like to get it off the books in 2028 in anticipation of Senate Enrollment Act 1 coming in effect in 2029, because it'll free up some monies for us for that. So it kind of lessens the burden on us to come up with something for the low and other things we've talked about already. So you'll see that you'll have the $236,000 there, and if you go to page 145, you'll see an apparatus replacement, and that budget goes from 230 to 236. In the past, we've used that for squad vehicles and things like that. The fire department doesn't have a need for that in 2027 or 2028, so it seemed prudent to take those monies, bump it at $6,000, and double pay on that ladder truck to get it off our books quicker.
Where is that? And how are we getting the money to make the double payments?
So instead of buying a smaller apparatus next year out of edit, which is on page 145, we're gonna change that amount to equal the truck payment. So basically edit, if we do this for 2 years, it'll take over the 2029, 2030 payments, while our CCD, which is on page 139, just keeps going with the normal payments, so. And I know I jump back and forth a lot there, but I wanted to point that out, so, because our goal would be to get that off the books sooner rather than later.
So this wouldn't be using the funds that you said we're gonna be short 1.2 million or something?
No, and you could use these funds for emergency services, so it could help offset the 1.4 million shortfall that's coming. So it would give you some options, which is kind of the secondary reason why we like to get off the books. I hate that, I'll just be upfront, so I'll pay off anything I can early, so that's a selfish limit there for me, but it does give you some options down the road. Because the reality is, I don't know the EMS lay is gonna I can't guarantee it's gonna be the full amount that you need.
Side note, being correct me if I'm wrong, but he looked to see if we could put some extra funds toward the fire station, pay it off early, but there's a penalty. We do. So we're kind of stuck.
When's that supposed to be paid off?
That's actually the next thing I want to talk about, so.
Real quick before that, on this truck payments, so we should expect this on the budget for 2028 as well?
Correct.
Okay.
And
And
we're
the
gonna
caveat to that is this will save the city around 472,000-ish in 29 and 30, and that's to help protect us from the Senate Enrolled Act 1.
Correct.
Okay. So we're paying won't have that money.
Yeah, it does free up 400,000, almost 500,000 to do something with it,
Thank you.
which is not gonna offset the 1.4, but it's a third of the way, so. So food and beverage, I'll have to come back to this later, but I do want to point this out, piggybacking off what the mayor said, and this is on page 150. So yes, when we signed the lease document for the fire department, we signed an agreement, we being the city, that we would not pay this off early. So I've been talking to the bank, and our legal counsel on that. So we can't pay it off early, but we can escrow it, and this is something we talked about earlier this year. So we are making the final payment this year out of food and beverage. However, it's gonna sit in an escrow account. So it's still gonna be showing that you owe on that, even though the monies are gonna be set aside. So we can remove it from next year's budget, and that's why you see it on there. But technically, we're not paying it off till 2028. So it's a little bit of a unique situation. The good thing is the escrow account can be interest bearing, so we're not losing any money. It's just we've got to show that we have a lease out there, even though in all reality we paid for it. So that's why you see it off of food and beverage. So I'd love to be able to tell you we paid it off, it's done, but you're going to have to sit with that lease for another year. So. But you don't have to pay for it next year. So.
That's the sole account.
Yes, yeah, that's handled with Bank of New York. That's what we use for that agreement. It's been a little, they're not thrilled with the agreement, but they're going to do it. Not something they normally do.
Mr. Mayor, to go back to page 139 real quick, not to keep it for us, but in 145, these CCD fire truck payments are strictly for this ladder truck payment, correct?
Correct.
Not subsidizing any other apparatus of that?
Correct, just like that.
And then, that on page 140, that CCD fire capital improvements, what's that pertain to? I know you discussed, you were saying that there's some sort of a truist account that goes with that if it's not used?
Yes, so what we do on this account is, and police falls in the same bracket on this topic. So we set aside so much money for capital improvements, that can be roof replacement, washing machine, AC, HVAC type of things. If they don't use it at the end of the year, we actually move this money to Trust Indiana high interest bearing account. So that's why you'll always see their actuals will be the most amount of money that we can move, just because we know at some point with those buildings, we're gonna have a huge expense. It's going to happen. So if we don't need it this year, we're gonna put it to the side for future years. So, and that is allowed to do on those particular things. So that's why you'll always see the actuals be in the top dollar. So.
Another quick question, and this could be to the city. Do we have anybody studying Senate Bill 270 with township consolidation, and what that would impact us wise if we were merged to go to townships on that?
I know Jeff Peters has looked into it, who's our financial advisor.
Okay.
Right now, we're just waiting on the point system, because that's gonna be based upon a point system on how that works. So we're just kind of waiting to see where that aligns. We're kind of getting prepared as if it's going to happen, just because we'd rather be prepared than be surprised. So,
Because if you look at the definition of what they're saying, we're right in the middle.
yeah.
We're 100% surrounded by Washington Township.
Okay.
Frankly, my concern on that is the timeline. Because the timeline from when they do the point system and make the final determination and when we have to absorb it is not a long period of time, in my opinion.
Yeah. How does the point system, can you explain that, just so for information?
I don't know a ton about it, but I know they've come up with a point system based upon the surrounding area, services provided, population, I know I'm forgetting something.
Those are the main ones.
Yeah, and basically they grade, and this is their term, not mine, they grade each township based upon that, and they assign them certain points, and if you go over a certain threshold, they deem,
Who's the,
the state.
okay.
So if you go over a certain threshold, then that municipality has to absorb that township.
And it's a situation, if they barely touched us up on, say, Foxcliff area, then pretty good chance we wouldn't have to do it.
weighted.
Yeah, but now, you look where Washington Township comes around the city of Martinsville, we're like right in the middle of their township, so if any community was going to have to do it, probably, it's gonna be us.
I'll be shocked if the points don't,
Yeah.
but
And that's in 29 or 28?
28 maybe.
28.
They make the final determination at the end of this year, which,
At the end of this year?
yeah, doesn't give a ton of time.
Wow.
And basically, again, what that means is township government would go away,
Right,
so.
right.
That means you would inherit a fire department.
Right.
Tax revenue, yes, cash reserves, no. Which,
But their tax revenue could be getting cut just like ours.
What do they have in their fire department?
Green trucks.
I think-
As Chief Green said, the ones that aren't right yet.
That's right.
They had talked about putting a substation south. Chief Green, where they have on that,
I think they put that on hold right now.
Wait to see.
Is that what you've heard too? Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah, I think they pretty much put it on hold.
That's a good thing, yes. I think that our fire department and the Washington Township Fire Department will have a good enough relationship. They can get together, we'll have a year to get something ironed out. You know, okay, where do we need additional coverage? Where, you know, if we need to put a substation in, how do we do this? How do we take their firefighters and ours and merge them together? It could be.
In our history here, they've been to us, I think 3 times, definitely 2 times, and folks, it's like oil and water.
But unfortunately, if it happens this time, they have no choice.
Right.
Is pay pretty similar or no?
Well, that's the issue about,
The pace is similar. The downfall you got right now is, I think they have maybe 2 full-time people a shift. Everybody else is just part-time. So, of course, part-time people may come in and may not, who knows? So you're only getting really 2 extra firemen a day. And a lot more area.
And, you know, there's some other subtle things that will happen if this goes into play, but the fire protection is the big one.
Because then the city would then become responsible for their fire truck payments and stuff like that as well.
But hopefully, if we cannot encumber their cash reserves, hopefully they've got enough cash reserves to take care of whatever debt they may have.
yeah, and my understanding is they will be mandated to use whatever cash reserves they have for that first.
Okay.
What did you say, Ben? I'm sorry.
It's my understanding that if they have any cash reserves, it has to be used immediately to pay off the debt that they have.
Do you know what that might be, like what their actual expenses and debt they
I
have?
think that you're okay with, from that standpoint. They're pretty diligent about getting things paid or have it paid off before they even buy it. So I think we're sitting pretty good there. And they have good equipment too, so it's
I don't think there'll be any problem.
no.
If the back goes down that avenue where we have to absorb them, it's not gonna be a problem. this day and age, we get along better than what we did in years past. I don't think there's a problem.
And I think you'll see some retirements happen too, I mean, just based on timing, you know.
But we may have to wrap the trucks.
Definitely.
More paint jars.
We're not doing ours.
But again, I'm glad that was brought up because it's a decision you may be faced with next year at this time.
All right, so now I'm gonna jump way back to page 52. And we'll pick on the mayor for a few minutes.
Is that where we get our things up?
So not a lot of changes here. The main changes you'll see monetarily will be economic development and promotion of city interest. We're just trimming those to be more in line with the actuals. Which trims the mayor's budget in total by 1.48%. And the reason why his salary line went up as much as it did was, like we talked about before, that position was separated out and we're grouping that all together.
Because if I remember right, the mayor, the position was gone from the water department, the wastewater department.
Yours still will be,
Coming out.
the max was kind of spread out, so we kind of consolidated that one. So the mayor's not getting 9.59% increase, just make sure we're all aware of that. Next one is planning and engineering department. That starts on page 55, goes into page 56. You're gonna see a lot of changes on this just because Mr. Oaks retired and we have not replaced that position. There are no plans at this current stage to replace that position. So what we've done is we've cut those salary lines. We've kept the expense line, which are shown on page 56. And then we bumped up the professional fees to offset what we think will be additional fees with HWC since they're taking on a little bit more of that burden. So overall, that department, you know, has a substantial decrease, but that's the reasoning for that.
So to clarify, now that we've made a position for compliance officer, is that correct, Ms. Mosier? So where does her salary get drawn from?
She is paid by salary ordinance out of the stormwater fund.
Okay, thank you.
Police, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to jump into yours?
You can go ahead. Is it the updated version with some of the changes?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have that copy, so if you don't mind.
Yep. So we'll pick on police for a little bit. They are found beginning at page 58, 59. And again, we're going to jump around a little bit on them just because they are also supplemented by the local office of income tax. You'll see their salary line did go up. That is an error on my part. So if you look at their 25 actuals, you'll see that even their budget for this year, I missed the mark on that. It is lower budgeted for next year compared to, again, they're on the hiring freeze. They have had one person that retired. Excuse me. So that will reflect that, and that should support that salary line going forward.
We had one retire and then one move to a different department, so we're currently down 2 officers.
Chief Manley or Deputy Chief Brown, what's your guys' officers per shift look like, and what's your weekend shifts and all that look like?
We're slated at 6 on, so we have 2 rotations. We have an A rotation and B rotation. We have an odd number of officers, so we have 6 on one rotation, day and night shift for 6, and we work a minimum of 3. And on the A rotation, we have 5 and 5, and then there's a TAC officer that kind of floats in the middle that covers between those shifts. Minimum of 3, and on sometimes we've had a couple of injuries, maternity leaves, we'll go to 2 after midnight, between 12 and 12, we'll go down to with an on-call status if need be, but we try to keep it right
sufficient safety-wise in your guys' opinions, or?
I mean, I'll never tell you it's enough. But we're also trying to be responsible with that budget as well, so.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
All right, and then the other section for police is found in page 95. And after this, you'll want to jump around. Really, the detail starts in 97. So part of that local option income tax, the police, they receive about $1 million of that annually, just a little over $1 million. And again, I apologize for the section printing backwards, but the main one that went out is their gas and oil for next year. They're running more vehicles, running longer, those are on, so, and as we know, gas prices are just going up, so that's just reflecting that. That's really the service lease purchase line that you'll see on page 98. You'll see it went from 420,000 to 400,000. The reason for that is now that we are paying for vehicles with cash, we're able to negotiate a better deal, so we're incurring some savings there. So really that's the main change in that. I know it's that quick, but.
So we're paying for vehicles for cash, so there is no car payments within this, right? Okay. How often do we cycle through cars?
Right now, we're on a cycle of 6 vehicles per year.
Do we buy or do we lease?
We buy. We've made the transition. That's a painful transition, but we made it.
Did we lease in the past?
Yes.
Okay, and that was,
Sometimes multiple times in the same year.
Yes. I saw yours work earlier. Police vehicles for some of us are great. That's a painful topic. We've been bonded on a lease on vehicles. Can't explain it, but we did.
okay. And obviously this buying is much better.
Much, yes. Cash is king.
Do we cycle out oldest to newest through that 6-year rotation, or do we just buy the whole new fleet?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you don't do it more necessarily on age, but on wear and tear.
Yes, the majority of the car vehicles that we'll cycle are based on wear and tear mileage. Obviously, if one was in an accident, we're gonna try to cycle that one out, just so it's not on the fleet, but it's usually by wear and tear.
Okay.
And how many are we keeping in the pool now?
So we currently have 5 pool cars, but we ran into, until recently, we finally have mostly newer vehicles. We ran into issues where we didn't have enough cars, pool cars were down. There's a lot of the Durango era, a lot of those Durangos had mechanical failures, they just weren't reliable on the road, to the point of we would bring personal cars to work and then float a police car around just between guys to cover. So we're past that now, but we did keep 5 pool cars just to have extra cars around.
Do you think that's a sufficient number?
Yeah, it seemed to work out so far.
So an average, how often does an officer get a new car?
It'd be once every 3 or 4 years.
New car?
Once every 3 or 4 years.
Because back in the day, you had a new car, but it was a used car.
Yeah.
It's every 6 years.
Yeah.
It went to the top and trickle down, so much better rotation.
I think I started full-time in 15, and started with a used car, I think it's expected. Didn't get my first new car until 2021, so 6 years in.
Yes.
The new BU program.
Yeah.
Do we have a time constraint in regards to like how far you can live away? Because does every officer get a take-home car?
They do, so we do surrounding counties, we have one that's grandfathered in, that was hired outside of that. She's just a county outside of Madonna County.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, then, since they have a farming community, they get a newer car more often than people that live local? The
We
officers that
take
live
that into
local?
consideration. The officer that is actually in that vehicle, she doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on a lot of miles. I don't know how we do that, but like it works out where it's still pretty fair.
Okay.
So that's
Correct me, Chief Manley, but I was thinking when this district was drawn up for where cars would be taken, it was the surrounding counties, but wasn't Hamilton County put on that and Bartholomew County?
I think at the time, because we have employees that work there, or that live there.
In Hamilton County, we have a ton of training that's up there, because we have a lot of nice expensive departments that put on a lot of trainings. So our guys that attend trainings typically go up there a lot as well. That was put into consideration when that was decided as well.
But thankfully, the last couple of years, we've gotten through the Durango issue, and I know that was pretty sketchy there for a while.
Even the state police comes through.
Yeah. Chief Manley wasn't running around with me, dude. Maybe I'm pretty good equipment somewhere. Any other things for the police before I jump back to street department?
Well, we've been going a little over an hour, do you want to take a break, do you want to keep on going, once everybody good?
We'll jump to street, that starts on page 62, with really the detail starting at the bottom of 63. Street, we had a lot of tweaks to do, just because in the past, we kind of grouped sanitation streets together on some things. We're trying to separate those out, so it's a true reflection of the actual cost that they're having. So you'll see their health insurance went down, just because we based it on actuals, we found we were budgeting a little bit too much for them. Salaries, you'll see that line stayed the same, just again, we found that we had a little bit of fluff in there that they didn't necessarily weren't using. Uniform cleaning, they've done a good job of negotiating a better package with a company that's much more efficient, I would say, and easier to work with. Gas and oil, let's just bring them more in line with their actuals. So you'll see a lot of changes on this just because we're trying to get them in line. Longevity went down just because we have some new employees. Longevity, that's based on actuals. We have people that are in there to see if they're eligible for longevity, and that's how we come up with that number. So you'll see a fair amount of changes, some positive, some negative, just to kind of get things in line with their actuals historically. But you will see their overall went down by 6.62%. So overall, they're asking for less money than what they did this year. Questions on that? MBH restricted, that is on page 68. These are monies that we get and can only be used for construction, reconstruction, or preservation of roads. That's all it can be used for. So we've kept that number the same. Now we are projecting the revenue on that to go up slightly next year. Again, our plans is just to save that, so not use it. So, but it can only be used for those things. That's it. That's it. No changes on that. Parks Department, so it starts on page 72, detail really starting at the bottom of 73. So one note this year that we want to make sure you all are aware of. So the way the current budget is now, that the parks will only go on the property tax roll for $700,000 next year. The reason for that is we've done calculations on the revenues that they bring in, and our feeling is that they can offset the other $233,000 that's in their budget. So in essence, they're going to start paying for themselves. They can't pay for entirely. We know that that's an investment, and we can't expect them to do that. But if you look at your property tax, what will be proposed, that is only going to be on the books for $700,000. So that's the reason for that. I know last year they brought in a revenue of $285,000, so they will still be accruing cash, but it will be a less of a hit on your property tax. So I just want to get that out there up front. Most are detailed their budgets on page 74. Again, it's just some cleanup and clarification, working with them on what they really truly need in the different line items and getting those more dialed in. you'll see a lot of percentage increases, but not a lot of monetary increase. One of the big ones is salaries. We found that they were over budgeted on their salary line, so we're correcting that and bringing that more in line. It's a little bit of a hard one to hit just because you don't know the pool season. That could fluctuate a little bit, so you can't always go off the previous year's actuals, because if they had to shut down a lot for pool closures or things like that, you've got to take that into account, because you may have great weather one season, so we've got to be careful how far down that one. You will see that their overall budget request is down 3.38%, so they are requesting less money for next year than they did for this year.
They still have bonds, outstanding bonds.
We are making their bond payment, once I get the property tax check, which opens next week, we would make in that bond payment as soon as we get that. So we have gotten an agreement to pay that off, like we talked about, so that will be paid off by, as soon as we get the property tax money in.
And what's the value?
The final payoff of that is $100,000, so it's saved us $5,000 by paying it off early.
Is that the last one?
And it is paying it off early, so that's another bond off the books. At the end of this year, the city will be down to 3 bonds total, which, for those of you who've been around for a few years, it wasn't 4 years ago, we had 15 bonds. We were at 17 at one point. So at the end of this year, we would be down to 3 bonds.
And those are,
Police station, the RDC 21 bond, and the water bond, which are long-term bonds. The police station pays off in 2042. The RDC 21, I can probably tell you that one.
That's a forever station.
Did we sign an agreement there that we can't pay it off early?
Any of these can pay off early. The RDC bond pays off in 2046, and the water bond pays off in 2040.
That's why they created the new ticket books.
Did the park project that they're gonna run another bond for, in the future?
I haven't heard no talks of a bond. I haven't heard of any upcoming bonds that I'm aware of.
the only thing we would have to look at, and we're still in limbo, is the South View Drive Park that is still before FEMA, waiting to get their authorization. And once we get the clearance through them, then we can construct a new park. Then it's gonna be up to us to figure out how we wanna pay for it. Do we want a bond for it? Can we find the cash to do it? Can we work the RDC? So there are some questions about that we have to look at. But we have no idea when that's gonna happen.
That's where the new pool's going in.
Huh?
That's where the new swimming pool's going.
Speaking of pools, what's the splash pad? It's shut down for the rest of the year.
Oh, I didn't hear it the rest of the year.
Thought that's what I heard.
What?
Splash pad?
What about it?
I heard it was down, it would be down for the rest of the year. Maybe I heard wrong.
Gosh, I don't know.
I hadn't heard it at all.
That's right.
That you shut down, friends. Unforeseen circumstances or something?
Yeah.
Unforeseen.
Any other questions on the park?
Speaking of, well, I guess, yeah, the splash pad situation, it can only be open when the pool is open, is that correct? Does anybody know?
My understanding was they could open that part up because there's fencing.
Right, right.
So I do believe that when it's really, really hot, they can open that up, I think.
Well, I've noticed that like, I've been out there like, say around, it doesn't open until like the actual pool staff is there.
Right.
And, you know, there's lots of people that are at the park, you know, early in the morning before it gets too hot, that really would benefit from having that splash pad open.
We'll get you an answer.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, and not to mention, I've seen, families, that have been out there, it's situations where they have to meet with a caseworker and their kids are in foster care and they get, the parent meetings take place there. So, yeah.
102, but okay. We're gonna go to our enterprises. Now, these are not appropriated per se because they're separate enterprises. So each one of these, you'll see a revenue and an expense section. So there's a little bit more detail in here. But that way you can see that what we're budgeting is going to be less than what they should be bringing in. So we're gonna start with page 101. And this is solid waste, we also call it sanitation. And you'll probably hear me use both terms, so. And really the detail starts with 102, the bottom, and bleeds into 103. You'll see a lot of changes again as we just continue to dial things in with what we see as future needs and actuals. You'll see some percentages going up and down. The main thing you'll see as far as changes is going down 75% is motor supplies, which is on page 103. You'll see that went down substantially just because we're going to get a new motor, so I think we're going to be okay for next year in theory. Other than that, you'll see electric going down. Again, just trying to get that more in line with what they're actually using. Hauling, we've pulled that down just because Mr. Dunn negotiated a really good rate with Rumpke, so we're seeing that our expenses on that are way less than anticipated. In capital improvements, we pulled that down just a little bit just to get it in line with what we think is going to be the revenue stream, just to make sure that our budget was surplus in all areas. So we do need to be careful of that line, just because we do have expenses and we'll have expenses in capital improvements for that department specifically.
Mike, what was that you guys negotiated out to with Rumpke?
We were paying waste management about $55,000 a month. Right now, if we go over 30,000 a month, that gives we were averaging, in all honesty, $27,000 a month in all total hauling fees. So we knocked it in half.
What's the length of the agreement? Was it like a set length, or does it go year by year? Is it
what?
The length of the agreement?
It was a 5-year agreement.
5 year?
It could go up no more than 3% a year.
What year are we in?
Pardon me?
What year are we in that agreement?
We're in the 3rd year. So we have 2 more years, and I'll tell you, they have been absolutely fantastic work. Every time I ask them for help, their expertise. Right now, we're looking at a new scale and an scale office. Because as you know, the mayor pointed out, we do need to move our scale. We've been infringing on our neighbors for years, although there is a rebuttal to that, but I won't get into that. We need to move it. So we're looking at some expense there, but I had a wonderful conversation with them Friday. Their head engineer, we're going to go down to Bloomington to see their transfer operation down there, to see how they're doing it. And then at the end of the day, I want trucks to be able to pull in, weigh, unload, pull back in. Everything will be automated. The ticket will be generated. We're removing all possible human error out of it, with the exception of we have to categorize is the trash household, commercial, brush, that type of thing. Once you put that code in, it does it. It'll be a much better operation. I mean, the guys are doing a good job now, but it can be better.
And then the billing, how's that handled?
The billing, we're going to go cashless as soon as we can. I can't tell you exactly when this is all going to have to happen, when we get the new system, the new program, actually that Rumpke uses. And I'm hoping maybe late fall, but it could go into the next year. The biggest thing we're going to have to do, Mayor, is involve engineering with the site layout. That's the one thing I'm not comfortable in saying, let's put it here. We really need to do the traffic flow correctly, so once but it's a much better operation, and I thank you all for having the courage to put the sanitation fee on, because that was needed. And, you know, I don't wrangle people, but right now, Jack's Tray Service is the cheapest service you can get for the county. And I just live a half a mile from I-69. I've got Jack's Tray Service, it's $27.50 a month. You get one can, no bowl, no brush. So for the service that we provide to our residents, really, they're getting a good deal.
Especially after the last couple of storms that come through, all the brush that the guys have been able to pick up. The other thing that Rumpke's really helped us with was our trailers.
Yep.
They upgraded those for us. They've just been very accommodating to anything that we needed.
Our trailers are pretty old.
Well, I'm talking, let's talk, the trailer they're working now, definitely. And that's why we're looking for a new building for them. But we're also looking at the trailers that they haul the trash away in. They were not in the best shape. American came in and, what, 3 new ones?
They bought 3 new ones, and they're over $100,000 a piece, and it's specific for our compaction operation. And we can get into whether compaction versus top loading, but for the size of our operation, we're doing the right thing. Compaction is definitely still the best way to do it, because you can get more onto a trailer, and that's the key. We used to haul trailers as low as 14, 15 ton. And it's all, transportation is the key to this thing. We're now averaging, definitely over 20, probably closer to 21 tons per trailer, so that's how we've gotten our costs down, plus better rates.
So with this new scale and building, is that, I know we're saying hopefully fall of 26, but could bleed into 27?
It could be 27, it's just how quickly can we pull this thing together. We want to do it right. The scale we have is still very accurate. We have got to get it fine-tuned from time to time to be in compliance, to stay in compliance. But we want an elevated scale, there's reasons for that. The building is not going to be as expensive as we think. There's an Indiana company that makes a steel building that can bring in, it's what Rumpke uses, so we're not having to reinvent the wheel on this thing. We're going to glean a lot from what they do, because they're a family-owned business and they're very well run.
Thank you. So then my question on that is, would that be included in this capital improvements? Is that built into this capital improvements?
Yeah, so we've been doing the same thing with them as the other capital improvements. If they didn't use it, we put it to the side. So right now, they're sitting on about $300,000 in cash. So the hope is that we come under the $300,000, which I think might get us there, and they'll just pay it for it cash.
Gotcha.
But we still need to keep putting monies away, because yes, we have a new steel, we have, things are gonna happen, so we need to keep, so it's gonna be a little bit of a balancing act.
So we've got 300 tucked away plus 200,000 budgeted for this year. So theoretically, there should not be more than that expense.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, we're talking, maybe saying tuck money away or whatever, but that's one of the things that we realize, that all of us are going to step away from these seats at some point. And whoever comes in behind us, I think it's our due diligence to set a pathway that they've got money, that if the fire station needs a new roof, there's money there, then we're not going to need the bond. Historically, we just go bond for it, and we'd be paying for it for 10 years. We've got to be prudent with what we've got, and sets funds away.
And you'll see on these enterprises that I'll put a revenue on here. So if you look at page 108, it's our anticipated revenue for next year. So you see the revenue that we're anticipating is right at 1.34 million. The budget's right at 1.6. So we're trying to balance. We want to build our cash reserves, but we also have to walk a fine line. We don't want to gouge or anything. So we're living within our means, basically, is what I'm getting at.
Well, Mike, I just asked when you do the engineer,
wish they had bought the house
Yes.
north,
North.
but the guy wouldn't sell. And we tried everything, we tried to get him, so I think really Walgreens has made a strategic mistake in sizing it the way they have.
Yeah.
We don't pick winners and losers, we don't tell them what to do, to a certain extent. Yeah, I agree.
So we're right into stormwater, really the details are on page 110. Again, it's a newer enterprise that we set aside, so we're still learning what our true long-term expenses will be, especially in anticipation with regulations that are ever increasing. So I'll just point out the main ones, repairs and maintenance, we're really not running into anything historically, so we dialed that way back. Materials and supplies, same thing there. You will see the contractual services, we bumped that up, just because we're finding that when we do projects with stormwater, we're more hiring a firm to take care of that project as opposed to doing it ourselves because of regulations and things, so we bumped that up with anticipated needs. And then you'll see the different salaries and things that are in there for the compliance officer that we now have, so that way we can account for those monies. And then if you go to 114, you'll see the revenue side of it. So our expense side, what we're budgeting is $790,000. Our revenue side, what we're anticipating is $809,000. So again, on the positive without going crazy with it, because we don't want to gouge anybody. So living within our means. And we're rolling to water, which really gets into detail. Wastewater, sorry, it gets into the details on page 117. Some of you will remember that we broke down not very long ago and separated out our wastewater treatment plant from our wastewater. Told you then that we were kind of trying to make calculated guess on some of that. I don't know if I can use that on me.
Oh, no. I'm marking something.
Make me a little nervous when you pick up the gavel, but thought we were gonna fight on me or something. So a lot of the changes that you'll see in here is just cleaning those up, because we're differentiating between locations now at that point. We're trying to get to that granular, so we know what's used at the wastewater treatment plant as opposed to the guys out of Mulberry. So you'll see some things jumping up, some things jumping way down. You will see that the overall budget really is the same. It went down by 30,000 overall, so not a huge monetary change, but you'll see a lot of tweaks on a lot of different things. So, and it's just as we have more history and actuals, just dialing those things in to where who's doing what with what, so that way we can truly show what our costs are.
I think one thing to note will be the repairs that we need to make there this year. The ultraviolet light, the grid system, we're going to have to put in close to $2 million in the wastewater treatment plant to get it up to 6 standards. The ultraviolet light replacement will take place this fall. And the other thing that Max worked very hard on is we need to make sure that each one of our lift stations has a generator or has a plug to make a possibility for a generator to be put in there, because we do have a couple of portable generators. Prime example was Thursday night, when the storm came through, the power got knocked off going up to the Oaks. Brad went out, was working on figuring out how to keep the lift station going. He was down to one person because we need to hire a couple more people down there at the wastewater treatment plant. Chase was on vacation, so he had Frank come in with a couple of guys, and they were luckily they were able to get through, but there was not a plug-in on that lift station to hook a generator to. So we were on the dice of how high is it going to get. Frank had a trash pump that we were going to pump out of that lift station and dump it over to the manhole, which when it's pouring down rain at 10 o'clock at night, it's not something you really want to do. It's not the safest thing for our employees, so we need to make sure that we have generators or available to generate each one of these lift stations. Because they start overflowing, I live will be all over us.
So we like a power transfer switch in the,
You know, I don't know if it do, I mean, the power was just out, and, but are you talking about the plug-in?
yeah, where it switches over that way, if it turns on, it doesn't backdate the system.
Yeah. We've got, 6 lift stations that we need to put generators at. I'm working on 2 of them right now, Lower and Upper, and Legendary, that's in the works. The 2 at Oaks need it, and there's a couple others. It's doable, we'll get it done here in the next year. And then we have 2 smaller lift stations that really don't need generators because they can run sometimes for a day, day and a half without, but we need to make sure there's that plug-in where if we have to, we can go and plug a generator in and let it cycle. Much better than it used to be, but we still need improvement.
Mr. Mayor, I know you said 2 million was kind of an educated guess for the UV lights and stuff like that. Where is that being pulled from?
The wastewater treatment, they've got the funds to take care of it.
In a reserve somewhere? Or?
Yeah, again, we'll be using cash. And that's why you'll see, you know, your expenses and revenues this year are pretty close, just because we have so many, I mean, it's just expensive to do any of those projects. So we are, right now, if everything comes in where we think it is, we'll just cash flow it.
Okay.
And then for contractual services, that doubled. Is that just kind of to realign to get closer to 25 actual?
That's the, yeah, that's the line with the actuals and also the ongoing. So anytime we do anything, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but anytime we do anything, we have to involve somebody, usually. Whether it's an engineering firm or someone that specializes in that. Most of this equipment is high voltage, so we can't just jump in there and do it ourselves, so.
The other thing that's a little discouraging because, and I shouldn't say discouraging, at one point you heard we were talking about, well, maybe we could bond for $7 million for the wastewater treatment plant, take care of the ultraviolet lights and stuff for about $2.5 million. Because there's some other things that we've done at the plant during the last 4 months that was part of this grand scheme that we were looking at, we have to get accomplished for IDEM. We were gonna take the other money and start relining some more serial lines, because what was that, 2 years ago, we lined quite a bit. We were hoping that, you know, maybe we bond, reline some of these lines and be more efficient going to our plant, cut down on the infiltration. But for right now, with the Senate bill coming up, we're not sure where we're gonna be, so we're, again, trying to pay cash for everything. Now, the one thing is, we can pay cash for this, and if we can have a couple of good years of building back up our cash reserve, then we can go out and maybe line, you know, X number of feet of sewer. But, we just had to put that on the back burner here for a little bit.
How many feet have we lined so far?
Well,
You know,
one year we
percentage?
did 32,000 linear feet. We did a lot of the northwest part of town, and then south of there. Areas that we knew we had large infiltration. It's real obvious when it rains what happens. We can isolate and tell where it's coming from. Here's the good news. With I-69 and what the state did, we did get a lot of major infrastructure improvement sewer-wise. That helped over on the east side of town because we've always had infiltration. The water table is so close. And then what the mayor has allowed us to do with the lining, we've actually improved our capacity at our wastewater facility. So these new additions that are coming in, it's not a sweat, it's no problem. We're about 50 to maybe 55% of capacity. We used to be 65% plus. So we have improved our capacity by cutting down the infiltration. And like to do that more, but you know, and someday we'll have to expand the plant, but we're pushing that off.
And I think one of the signs of that is, remember, I'll say 5 years ago, we had put the phosphorus treatment plant in, here we put phosphorus in our water before it goes out, then it comes to the wastewater treatment plant, we have to take it out. and we were thinking we were gonna spend $130,000 on the chemicals to take it out. Well, with the infiltration that was cut, reduced, we're spending maybe $40,000, when it was cut like a half to a third. So what the state did for us was fantastic. But, not to interrupt back, there's still gonna be things coming down from the state, from the federal level, that may have to put other facilities in, to take other things out of the wastewater before we discharge it. Because they're continuing to tweak that. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the water too, that's what we're facing there.
Is the ultraviolet on the,
Ultraviolet, there's no off-season for that.
okay,
So late fall to April 1st, you don't do UV. So that's when we're gonna be doing the equipment replacement, when it's not required.
what's the schedule on those bulbs and stuff? I know there's a certain life span.
Yeah,
They're
and they're expensive.
Oh, yeah.
They're
That's
They're very expensive. We got them, and we're gonna get us a plan with this new, how long they last, they normally last 3 to 4 years. So we get pretty good life out of it, but, yeah, when you go to replace them, you're looking at 20 grand.
Yeah.
It's salty. Power, real briefly, electricity is a big concern. We can't control what Duke and REMC have to charge. But one of our biggest users of power is the wastewater treatment plant. We've got these huge electric motors, blowers that have to keep the aeration and everything working properly. When those things are running, they're running wide open. We are changing that, and we're putting equipment on it. I don't want to get real technical, but anyway, we're only going to call for the power that we need at that specific time. Instead of having 2 of the motors going wide open, we may just be able, automatically switch to 1. So it's going to be a huge savings. We're paying Duke over $700,000 a year. We have done things that we can do to lower, like the street lights. We went LED. That cut that fee in half. We went from about $85,000 a year to $45,000. Well, now it's starting to creep back up because of these increases. So we can only do so much to be good stewards, but we're still looking for ways in the wastewater treatment plant. Of that $700,000, I bet they are $225,000, $250,000.
Oh, the treatment plant?
Yeah.
Wow, they're probably more than 400.
Is that right? Okay, I think it's way up there. So if we can knock that back some and be more efficient, it's better on the motor.
So it's stuff you can run off peak,
Yeah.
because that's a big difference in
Yep.
kilowatt hours running on peak versus the off peak.
And the other thing, to go back about the streetlights, we're gonna take in Indian Creek Village, which their streetlights are on RMC, and then Hannah Farms. Those are, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, you're gonna pay for the streetlights. Well, there's 15, 18 in Indian Creek Village alone
Yeah.
that we're gonna have to take on.
We've got 630 streetlights, and we're in the process of probably adding another 30. So you have to do it for safety.
Where is the cutoff between RAMC and Duke?
It runs, Artesian Acres is in, the school is not. It Artesian Acres, east, Artesian Avenue, east is REMC. So along Hannah it's kind of, I can send you a map, I've got that.
Okay.
And I can show you their service area. And REMC, they buy power that, I'm sure they're doing the best they can, but they are more money.
But Duke Energy has a huge, Duke Energy has a huge easement up through Hannah Farms. With their lines.
There is a new addition going in off of 252, it's going to be taken into the city, and that will be due, so that's good news for them.
Mike, this is just from my knowledge. Why didn't, on the back of the plant, why do you not have to run the ultraviolet lights during the fall?
It's, because of it's a temperature thing. And you've gotta kill, you're killing with the UV, the bad bacteria. And it's really only a problem spring, summer, and fall. When it gets cooler, you don't have that issue. So again, I'm not a chemist, but it's from like October 1 to April 1st. You do not have to fire that baby up, and that's big. That's a safe.
I don't know, it's,
Antimicrobial.
The good pack, man.
check the little fishy on the screen.
But the great news is the water that we get back into White River is 95%. It's cleaner than what we're taking out of White River. So we are really being good stewards. We're in full compliance, IDM.
You said you were gonna say something about water?
No, when you get there.
Sure. We're there.
All right, you go first and I'll.
All right. So water that really dives in, and it starts on page 127. Again, you'll see things, it's the same size of the wastewater, we're just tweaking things because we're differentiating between what's coming out of the utility office, what's coming out through the water sewer. So some things that we were set to budget before, we didn't really have the information to clearly define who was getting what. So now we're getting that picture clear, we're refining numbers. You know, we're trying to get closer and closer every year so we can get you pretty close to actuals. But you'll see some percentages go way up, some down. Again, it's just aligning with, you know, personnel expenses out of that department as opposed to the office and who's getting what. You will see, you'll see a couple bumps. Contractual services is bumped up pretty substantially just to try to get that in line with actuals, just because we always have projects going on, we always have needs, so that's just something that we have in there. Another pretty significant bump you'll see is on the bonds. As I talked earlier, we will be done with 3 bonds at the end of the year. And I would like to pay a little bit extra on the water bond every year. We have, we've talked to the bank, we are paying monthly on that bond as opposed to twice a year, just so we can buy down some of the interest more substantially and quicker. So our goal is to keep chipping away at that. It's a $6 million bond originally, that we took on in 2020, or 2019 really. And you know, we're down to $5 million, so we're ahead of schedule. We want to keep that going. So we have the monies to do it, and paying monthly is working. So that's why that is in there. So we're actually paying a little bit. I'd love to pay more, but we have to live within our means. So that's the increase there. So it's not that our bond payment went up, it's just we're wanting to pay more on the bond itself. So I'd like to pay that off early if we could. Other than that, it's just tweaking things on there. You will see it the overall for water, and again, this is one where the budget actually went up 4%. The driver for that is the bond payment, so that is the sole reason. So as far as the department itself, they are not asking for more money. That's me. So.
Ben, how is it that in some of these expenditures on the fuel, and the oil stuff, how is it going down drastically when prices are going up?
Yes, a good question. So as you'll recall a couple of years ago, we kind of encouraged the departments to take expenditures from the line item it should come from, whether it blows the budget or not. Historically, that's not always been the case. Sometimes it may have been a fuel expense in our office, received it coded for something else. We don't really know what that's for. You know, we're not going to dig into every little receipt. So now that we're doing that, you'll see some went up substantially, some were going down substantially because we're kind of clearly defining what's coming from where. So in the past, fuel and oil for some departments, they may have paid a utility bill like a duty. Because in their minds, it was fuel.
So it's like, some is like a negative 100% here, and then you got increase
So as we go through and that's where it's great, and I applaud the departments for doing that, because it was, I'm sure it's painful for some, and I'm sure they got really sick of hearing from me. Pay for it from where it should be, pay for it from where it should be. You've probably heard that at least a million times. So part of that is it's gonna create these fluctuations, but I want that because I want it dialed in line by line, so you know. So that way, it forces two things. That way, if we have, a situation that arises up we didn't plan for, we can have an open and honest conversation about that on why this happened, because you can't budget for emergencies. The other thing is that way gives you a clearly defined what we're actually paying for that particular thing. So, I know it's probably a bigger answer than what you were looking for, but
No.
that's why you're gonna see some that go way up and some that go way down. And it wasn't that our overall budget numbers were skewed in the past, it was the line items, where we're getting pretty granular. But I would, personally, I like ours to be within, I like my budget about 95% line by line accurate, which is, we're getting pretty close pretty quickly, so it's good. But yeah, that's why you're gonna see some.
Thank you, okay.
And I'd love to say that next year won't be the same. You should see fewer like this, but it's gonna happen again.
Thank you.
I have a question with water. Don't we sell water?
Bulk water.
Okay. Where,
That'll be shown on your revenue side.
there we go.
On your revenue side. So that'll be, so the revenue for this will be shown on page 133. That's your overall revenue.
And they give me a breakdown every month. We're running, averaging now about $1,200 a month on bulk water. So it's all card, and it's coming up. People are, of course, we were out for a while, from the tornado, we had to replace all that. But it's a wonderful service, and it's not just for our residents. There's a lot of people in the county that don't have water.
I know.
And they have to come in, so yeah, it's working, and the revenue's going up.
Are we charging more?
Yeah. No.
More no. It's based on our water rate.
Yeah.
We're charging less?
No.
No.
Paying the same.
It's the same.
It's the same as what you would pay if you was on the water company, correct?
Yes. Yes, it's the same rate. We calculated it in there, and then it's based on that.
So is there a break for people who are Martinsville residents versus, no?
No, I don't know that you can legally.
I'm sorry?
I don't know that you can do that.
Really?
But
Yeah.
I don't believe the IRC would allow that.
Yeah.
Now, you could do it on
Sewer.
wastewater, because wastewater is not governed by the IRC. So you take the Oaks, Legendary Hills, those are residents that are not in the city, that, yes, they get our water, we can't give them a surcharge on that, but the wastewater, which is not governed by the IRC, you could give a surcharge on that.
Yeah. And your water rates are dictated to you, so yeah, there's no wiggle room there.
Oh, okay.
They would consider it discrimination of some kind.
Oh, okay. I mean, due to just the lack of water, it just, to me, just seems like I'm hoping that we're charging more as time goes on.
It'll go up with rates, it'll be commensurate with what we're charging.
But, yes, at the bulk water station, but our rates that we give out monthly to the utility office, that's governed by the IRC. That was mandated what our rates would be back in 2019 when we did the big water model. So that's why they mandate, okay, you'll do this much this year, then so much increase the second year, and then we've topped out at the max that can be charged.
Okay.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee you everybody's coming there does not live within the city legal limits.
Right, I know. And because it seems like there's a lot of people that don't have water. I am just amazed.
But as far as shortage of water, we don't have a shortage of water. They may not have a supply where they're at, but we're certain on.
There are areas, because of where, it just depends on where the glacier stops and what's underneath.
speaking of water, you know, the commissioners were wise a few years ago, and they did have a water study done. We can generate 140 million gallons a day to be taken out of our aquifer. As a city, we use roughly 1 million gallons a day. So our aquifer is huge. And one of the things I just want to say on water, you'll see in here that we have $75,000 set aside for radio meters. We have, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, all residential meters are now radio reads. We have a few businesses that we've not done that yet because it's a little more in-depth going in because of the size of meters that they have, but we are working on that. The other thing that we need to be mindful of is what the EPA may mandate for us in the future as far as our lead pipes. So for right now, we, the city, are responsible to our meter. From the meter to the residents is on the citizen, the resident. They're wanting to change that and make that on us. So that's why you've seen us try to get surveys out in the utility building. What kind of pipes do you have? And we're making some headway here. It's not 100% done, but we're making slight headway. But about 3 weeks ago on the news, I was watching one morning before I came in, and Citizens Energy has done 6,000 residents and came in and re-changed their line. They said they still have 50,000 to go, but they have voluntarily started replacing those, and they're getting some federal money from it. But at some point in the next few years, the EPA is going to come in and tell us, you need to have a plan on how to change these lead lines out.
We have to have a report to them by the end of 27. We have 4,900 customers, give or take. We have to identify the ones that we know are good. And if it's questionable, it's considered a possible lead contaminant, that's going to be a problem. Those lines are going to have to be replaced. I'm really proud of our guys. They started this week. There's a new ruling where it's going to be much easier. I'm not even sure I shared this with you, but they can pop the lid on the meter, the water meter. They can look at the line coming in and the line going out to the house. And based on what that material is, they can report no lead, whatever. So when the whole idea is that by the end of 27, I want to have that less than 1,000. I'd love to have it down to less than 500 homes that we're not sure. I mean, we got to get that down as tight as possible because whatever we submit at the end of 27, what's going to happen? They're going to come back and say, okay, now you start replacing lines on these that you don't know about. So it's real important that we get this right and get the number legitimately as low as possible to help hold down the future.
Because most homeowners do not know. Most homeowners do not know what
They don't. No, they don't. You're right.
So that brings up, both of you brought up things that stirred my mind here. On the water readers, the radio reads, we had a problem around here. I know the hospital was one of the big issues. We're having a lot of leaks. We're losing water. Have we got those businesses and things under control now?
Yeah, the radio reads, Phil, are fantastic because we will know within 24 hours if it's a constant use. It notifies us. And the ladies over at the utility office are fantastic. They get on the phone, they can call them, they email them, whatever, and say, hey, you've got an issue. A lot of times with a resident, it's simply a toilet that is stuck. And it's amazing how much water you can go through. And it gets real expensive real quick. So yes, we do notify people right away of constant use. We document the contact and everything. Unfortunately, sometimes businesses and individuals, they don't want to address it right away, and they come in with a $1,100 water bill, and they're upset.
Right. And then we were losing water at one time with the rural feed down south of town. We got all the leaks.
That's all fixed, yeah. That is, the one thing we're going to have to address on that, years ago, ago in the seventies, it was Doc Bowen, Governor Bowen. He pushed us to supply water to the Morgan Monroe State Forestry. And it's so much a month, it's $700 a month is what they're paying. That's all good and well. Of course, it's very expensive to maintain that, but it was one of those, they do this for them, okay. They don't have any water in that area. So we had to bring in city water to them. They're putting in, they're expanding their camp facilities. And with that comes showers and restrooms. So their usage is going up. And we don't need it. It's just, hey, you know, you pay us so much a month. We really need here to have a conversation with them and say, folks, the rules are changing here. I don't know what we're gonna get into with the IURC, because that may have been part of the agreement. I have to go back and look at it. But they're really, in fairness, we need to start metering that water and, you know, them paying for what they're using, actually using.
And then along with it, the south, so for our maintenance, how about our water tower to the south as well as the north? Are we good on?
Yes, sir.
Our maintenance?
We did maintenance 3 years ago. Pretty comprehensive, so we're up to stuff. You need to address those about every 5 to 7 years. And we went in, the major one was, up on Sycamore, drained it, cleaned it, painted it. It's up to snuff. The one off Burton is good. It's a little different configuration. It's actually, as you know, sitting on the ground. But that's good. We just need more usage out of that tank. And then we have another one, up on Lincoln, 375,000 gallon stand. That's a good shape.
Okay, thank you.
So yes.
I just want to make sure we get that.
Sorry for the lengthy.
No, I appreciate that. That way we don't get those big surprises, you know, just like we're doing, well, money's back for the fire station things, we know those upkeeps are coming, I was just worried about those things.
And we do the same thing on so we have a water tank maintenance fund. So we take, I think it's $4,000 a month, I may be wrong on that amount, but we take a certain amount a month and put it to the side. And we just stock that away every month. We've been doing that for 5 years now.
The beauty of the tank system that we have, when we had to work on Sycamore, we had to take it down. In the past, that would have knocked us out of line. It would have really been a problem. When they put the tank in off Burton Lane, the city is still fully supplied. We're in good shape for fires. And that was a brilliant move, whoever did it years ago. So we're way ahead of the game on water.
And down, you know, Mac made a comment, we need to have more usage on the one on the south end. And some of the residents that live on the line out to the south, we've denied them hooking up to our water because they didn't run a big enough line out there. So if we would allow, we've denied, 5 to 10 residents this summer. You're not in the city limit. We're not allowing anybody to hook on because the citizens are already on that. If we allow, you know, you to hook on, this one, take down the pressure. If it had been a 6-inch line, wouldn't have been a problem. But the service line is very small out there.
Matt, you're still using the Ziptility to keep track of all the maintenance and where everything is?
Yep.
Including all the lead, or unknowns or knowns?
Everything is documented, absolutely.
In what percentage do you say that we've gone through so far?
You know, it's amazing, we can tell by the age of the neighborhood a lot of times, that we know, you still have to check, but you can tell that we're pretty sure certain neighborhoods are really good. But there's a form we have, and so now we're submitting, this past week we did 125. Now, we can't keep that kind of momentum going, but if we can knock off, 70 a week, that's gonna add up real quick. So to get, by the end of 27, that's the goal.
Is it, how do I say, it's not that necessarily all of these are lead pipes, but the EPA changed the parts per million of what considered, so they added a zero behind the decimal point of what's
Yeah, but-
allowable.
Yeah, and I don't understand all that, to be honest with you, Ben, but, yeah. We usually do.
Too, if it's a lead line going from the meter to the house, we come in and change that, probably a pretty good percentage of the pipes within the house are gonna be lead. And, you know, where do you draw the line?
It's
It's
all
also
good.
lead, it's just the, lead is used in brass and copper to,
Right.
so it's parts, there's a
Just
percentage,
get in there.
it's,
It could all be avoided if there was a question, put a filter. Put a filter on as the water comes in
Just
or wherever.
run an RO
and
system.
No problem, but nobody wants to do that, so.
We'll go to the special section, so we're gonna go to page 135. And the reason why I call it a special revenue section is just because it has its own funding source. These are luxury tax items. So CCI on page 135, it's 19,000. We kept that budget the same, just because we anticipate that revenue source to be right at that. We use that for sidewalks, so you'll see that your usage so far this year is pretty low, just because we don't dip into that super frequently. We kind of do that if we get, a small sidewalk invoice or something like that. That's what that fund is for, and that's what our anticipation is for it to be continued to be used for. 139, 140, we kind of already touched on that. That's the fire capital improvement, also the turnout gear. And then that's also the main payment for the ladder truck. And you will see on this one, this is probably the exception to the rule, our anticipated revenue from this fund in particular for 2027 is actually only $295,000, even though your budget is for $298,000. So it's a $3,000 deficit. We could dip into that, but I'd really like to pay double payment on ladder truck if we can. So we have the cash, it's not an issue, it's not much money, but I do want to point out that is a deficit. You don't see that very often in this budget, but we have the cash to offset that.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question. It looks like, for the police, it looks like in the past we've done police capital improvements. Is there any reason to why we're not doing any police capital improvements compared to fire? I know it's a newer station, but.
We are on police, well, we dialed theirs down a little bit just because we have a new building.
Okay. A lot of things under warranty.
Everything should be under warranty. We will have to readdress that. But again, that will give you options here in a couple of years because you won't have a ladder truck payment on here anymore. Yeah, hopefully they don't break the new building.
But what if there are expenses with the new building, maybe something isn't the way that they want it to be? Are we accounting for that?
Yeah, they would have to take it from a different line item at that point. I mean, they do have a maintenance and things like that in general, so they'd have to take it from there if it's not under warranty. I don't know that we have that just because when we do a new building as a city, we have what's called a municipal building fund, and it's for the building itself. So we kind of get a little bit of a grace period after they moved in for anything like that, hey, we can use that to make the building correct. It happens, you have new construction, everything's great, you move in and you find things that you need to tweak or change. That's not really the contractor's fault, it's more of your claim.
Chief, Van Lane, deputy, have you found anything that maybe you need to address with the new building that maybe isn't accounted for?
Yes, we have. We're working through a lot of those. We're working together with the mayor and Bob with the building inspector's office. There's a couple of things that we're currently working through with the builder. I don't know how much we can really touch on that.
How about the basement and the water you take care of?
But that's one of those things, yes.
we've had an issue, an ongoing issue with one of our sump pumps. We're currently working with that. We have some spigots that are leaking already. So we're working through a lot of those things still right now.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Brown.
You know, if three major things, the sump pump, the walls in the basement, we've got some leakage on there that Councilman Decker was talking about, that we are looking into that to figure out what the situation. Josh probably knows some more out there. There's a chemical that's supposed to be put in, so if water's detected, it's supposed to crystallize and stop the leak. We did find one batch of concrete that was delivered that was not included in. So that's a problem we're looking into right now. And the third thing was the block on the outside that they were cracking. So we're still trying to come to agreement with that. They're going to come in and replace 35 blocks, something like that. And we're trying to, they say we need to put more stress joints in. We don't think that's going to be the answer, but our reply back to them, okay, if you think this is the answer, then give us a 5-year warranty on it. So that's what we're going back and forth. So 3 big items to us, but minor in the whole operation of the building. But if you look what the county's having to do with their concrete right now, I feel very fortunate that we've got most of ours down to these 3 minor items.
Which hopefully you should be under warranty. Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I request a bathroom break from like 10:10 to 10:20?
Denied.
Oh.
Sure. As long as the mayor gets a head start on it, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Surprised you with that.
Get coffee.
Yeah, out of my way, Porter.
Anybody want water? Water? You want?
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, those are all set. And then they'll shift.
Sorry.
Good sir, got a question for you.
No, any questions that we get a hold of them, or something to try to find out where they store the data. That kind of constituent that's smart. I don't know the issue. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you did a good job explaining what you say, so I'm just more so. I guess.
And then you do some center.
I think this is line.
Yep.
Yeah. Full number.
Lawyers today, and it's not new, it's probably
Got it. Monday or Tuesday.
I just know he's asking.
What do you guys do?
It's
No, really, seriously.
every agency. Oh, yeah. Yes, we, most recent year that we. It's frustrating.
We're on next week. We are on.
Yeah. I think there's definitely not like I'll get that information to you. It's playing for a week.
Doing that, and then,
We don't need corrections of these from the same, that part, not really fair.
Sunday there,
It's good.
It's just we're gonna speak about it.
it's supposed to be decent.
Like 70 ties up.
I'm hoping not to go there.
It's the last kind of warm day. It's not the warm day.
Yeah.
2 years.
If it happened, I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I don't ever really get too crazy busy here, just running hiking, so, all's good there. Just busy, always busy, so.
It's a good thing.
A lot of hats,
You
but.
guys know about the
It's
election?
Yeah, that's good. Keep doing it.
I didn't even, I was didn't think about it. I was at a meeting with, Federation of Responsibility. Like, day work.
And I was a full plan.
Huh? Yeah,
So the way it's out was down here.
I just,
So,
My brother-in-law's a deputy down in Mills County, sheriff, he's a sheriff deputy there, he's in the. So he's.
Yeah.
Gracious, he's been,
I didn't even, I was even thinking
Seven
about
hours
it.
or something. Yeah, I'm good for that.
you do okay. I understand.
I think from my understanding, he was staying.
No, these are taking for a while. Yeah, sounds like. Yes, I'm saying.
Something else I was gonna ask because I think we
I used to be here. So we used to cover. Yes, they were on state. Yep, so typically we have all that state. So ISP.
I just chose to read it.
like, I'm just. But that is fine. I never know. Get this.
What's that?
They were public safety. Training them up, you guys go be police officers. They wouldn't respond. They respond to medical calls, they just fire the case. Just
I'd say How you doing?
They got a different. Yes, they're one thing you need to do.
Hey, yes, sir. Good question. Yes, sir. We have to know. Yes, sir. What would you say is maybe don't even put it.
To be frank, I think everything's so.
I can sit here.
I mean, it's just, we don't know, because projected, the last projection I saw was that we're gonna lose probably one and a half million this. So that's what I'm hoping, help take some stuff off early right now, like 300,000 hopefully, and then most of it back on that, with the capital line, I guess. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how that would go, but that must hopefully take some of it, but I don't know, it'll be, that's hope, the hope is that we're, just like 800,000 in cash reserves running this. So hopefully, and theoretically, everything's the same next year. Each act. A lot of it's unknown, but figure out what
We're live.
Live from Martinsville.
We need to get on that.
Let's go. Before we get into things, I had texted Ashley Cox and asked her about the splash pad. She said it was a pump that went out. It was a 2005 pump. They ordered a new one. They're waiting on delivery. So my response, possible timeline. Her response was, I don't really have that at this time. We ordered it on Wednesday. It's coming from Spear, who's done all the work at the pool. Very dependable company. It is usually, doesn't take too long, but I believe they did not have this one in stock. 2005, 21 years ago. Yeah, they probably don't. So anyhow, but she'll let us know as soon as they get an update on when it's going to come.
They did a great job on the stairs.
And Ben, a couple of you had questions about the re-election. It's like,
Yeah, so there was talk about changing our cycle to match the presidential cycle. We talked to you all about it individually. There was a House bill that was put out there. There was some verbiage that was changed that caused a lot of concern with the towns because basically the way the wording changed, it went from a rotation that they're all in now to mandating that they all go presidential cycle and not have a rotation. Because the way most towns are now, you have half that are in a cycle with us and half that are midterm. So they didn't like that verbiage. So that bill died. So we all are on our normal, what we consider normal cycle. So our cycle will be up for election next year, which is why you see in your budget $30,000 for election expenses to do the new term starting in 2028. So there was potential that we could change, but then it would cost, we would have to still run next year and then run again presidential cycle, which would just be costing us money and cause a lot of confusion because you'd be running back-to-back years. So that's where we're at with that. The timeline to do that change, though, even if we were to have done that, has expired to my knowledge. So I don't think that's even an option to go at this point. So that bill will probably come up again. So it's probably going to be a topic that we're going to talk about again. But it did die because of that purpose.
good. Let's proceed.
So we're going to jump back in, page 145. I know we talked a little bit about this page previously. Again, that apparatus replacement, we're bumping that from 230 to 236. That will be used as the secondary payment for the ladder truck. We also did some tweaking with some of the numbers. We bumped up the accounting professional fees in anticipation of some projects that we may have coming up with regards to future expansion, those types of things. We reduced the engineering professional fees because, as you can see, historically we really haven't used that or used much of that. So bring that more in line with history. And then, but you'll see that the bottom line number itself is the same as this year. And if you go to page 149, you'll see our anticipated revenues for this fund are $978,000. What we're budgeting is $918,000. Again, we're not putting a lot of money to the side, but we are living below what we're bringing in revenues. So we can start accruing a little bit of cash there. Then if you go on to page 150, I know we talked about this previously, but so able to remove the fire department building lease from food and beverage, we bumped up the sidewalks and paving for the difference. So all in, we have budgeted around $1.5 million for sidewalks and paving next year, which we need about 1.3 or 1.4 to keep at our current. So this puts us in a position where we can be a little bit more aggressive with maybe putting some additional paving sidewalks in. Question on that? Okay. We'll go to local roads and streets, which is on page 154 and 155. Very little changes on this besides just aligning things with actual costs. As we talked about earlier, we're just trying to align things with where they should be coming from, so we just are lining those out. But you'll see the total number itself does not change any.
Can I back up one page, or two pages?
No, once we go past it, there's no going back.
Oh, okay. As the sidewalks and paving,
Yes.
there's talk of turning one-way streets and things like that. Is there any thought that you may need to move some sidewalks back in, or are they already on off the street? That's all.
I don't know that I have an answer for that.
Well, the streets that we were looking at, we've kind of got hold right now because, talking with the police chief on how that would be putting them in a situation that they're on emergency run. We still have concerns with the fire department that will get their equipment down a street that's very crowded. We may have to look, instead of making one-way streets, maybe parking on one side as opposed to the other. One of the reasons and again, we entertained the idea on making Pike Street one-way east and Harrison Street one-way west, because we have a lot of trouble at the intersection of Harrison and Main. Now that we've gone legally, we have, 20 feet from 30 feet from the crosswalk that we can put back with no parking. Since we've gone in and painted that and moved some vehicles back, it's made it a little bit safer. We just thought it would make sense if you could have done that, because you have Pike Street coming into a four-way stop, which would have been a little safer. But then, after the comments that Chief Manley got, that wasn't a good idea. So we're still researching, figuring out what we may do with that. Because again, we've got to figure out a safe way to get the equipment up and down the streets if there's an emergency.
Can I add to that? I talked to a few people down Harrison Street where that is supposed to take place, about trailers, vehicles, and how they park. A lot of them are okay with getting their stuff over closer to the curb, keeping it a two-way while we can, and putting no parking signs on that one side. If we could get, like Wellsprings is one to comply, because they got traffic over there all the time. The east end of Wellsprings, I don't think it's part of Wellsprings, I think it's the older community. They do park there and go in that side building, so that would have to be addressed as well, because they usually park 2 or 3 vehicles right there on that side. But a lot of people were okay with it. They'll set something up, tighten their stuff up, and the sign on the other side might be.
And I know there was concern going into Wellspring with handicap. If we made it that way, we would have been in love with the handicap transportation right in the line of traffic.
That's the door I'm talking about.
Yeah, and we didn't think that went through quite all the way. But here again, that's the reason we put it out. We have discussion and we look for the feedback from the public. So
With that parking lot being right there and only a couple houses before you get to the railroad tracks, the street kind of widens out right there.
yeah.
Everybody else parks from, like my block, going west. So there's houses everywhere. Once you get there, it's kind of, it seems like it widens out a little bit, so you can navigate that pretty good.
So, John, to answer your question, I don't think we have to worry about that at this point, because we're not going to definitely way that we're going to go just yet, or recommend as we go. And with the sidewalks and paving paving. The sidewalks, we cannot get any grant money for those. The paving, we can. So normally it's $1 for $1 that we don't get the grant money for the paving. So if we allocate $1 million to sidewalks and we allocate $500,000 toward paving, with the matching grant, it'd actually be $1,000 worth of paving. So, but again, those numbers may change. We may have to put a little more toward the paving because this year, Matt, we're going 4.5 miles.
Yeah, we're coming, you'll be hard pressed to find a chuck hole in Martinsville. We've really, money, we've done a good job keeping the roads up, but we're coming back in the cycle where we're gonna have to hit it heavier. You gotta average 7-8 miles a year to really keep these streets up. So we're coming back into where we gotta really do some miles. That's gonna take more money. Yeah, and we put in probably 23-24 miles of sidewalks we put in. We've got still phase 5 yet to kick off, which is fully funded. The decision that really needs to be made on the sidewalks is we're spending a lot of money, but we have a post office that continues to drive them. And they're driving sometimes on green. They're just bored and they're driving on. And I get it, it takes a little effort to get out and hand deliver. But we don't, cars are not allowed to drive on a sidewalk. They're sidewalks for a reason. For whatever reason, we can't get it through their heads that they can't drive on sidewalks. They claim that our laws do not apply to them. So, going forward, Mayor, you're going to have a decision as to if we're going to continue to put in new sidewalks and allow them to tear them up.
And it's a situation where we just did Dale Street a few weeks ago. Mac got a voice money sent over to Mac, and this lady lived down there. She was so excited to have a brand new sidewalk. She was out looking at it and everything, and she looked up and she saw the mail carrier driving on the sidewalk that again was still considered green.
What street is that?
Dale Street. And may not have shared with you last fall, we were a little irritated and we asked Chief Manley to, if you saw a postal service driving on sidewalks, give them a ticket. Well, they basically kind of laughed at us on that, and we thought that they had quit driving on them. Well, 3 weeks went by. Mr. Porter was getting some phone calls from people. They just quit delivering the mail. And so these residents, it was 3 different routes. They were getting their medications.
Residents were not receiving their mail, which included invoices, that included medications, that included all the items you normally get. If they want their mail, they can go to the post office and pick it up.
And so when they were called and questioned, the postmaster's comment was, it's the mayor's fault. So we didn't know they weren't getting them. So we told them, go ahead and deliver it, whenever you will address this later. We contacted their legal department. I was on hold for an hour one day to register a complaint, and a couple of days later, I got an email basically saying, we told you basically last fall that you have no jurisdictions. Those are driving routes, we're going to continue to drive on them. Then the next day, I got an email wanting me to take a survey of how well I was pleased with their response to our question.
Where are the mailboxes in relation to the street and the sidewalk?
They're at the sidewalk. They're not at the curb, they're at the sidewalk. And what the post office has said is, back in the day, those were set up as mobile routes. And so they're not willing to switch those from mobile to walking routes. So since they're mobile, they will drive up to the mailbox.
And that's handled by the Postal Service?
Correct.
The definition of mobile route?
Correct. And my guess is that those were probably put in before there were even sidewalks put in into those neighborhoods. And the streets may have even been dirt back when those routes were determined. They're not willing to readjust as the world changes their mobile routes to accommodate progress.
And we've asked them how do we go about that, and we're just crickets. We don't get anything from the Postal Service. Matt reached out to Congressman Baird's office and got I may try to reach out to Senator Banks' office. We've had a pretty good relationship with their liaison, and just, you know, what can we do?
And we heard this from the local post office, we heard it from the Indianapolis office, and we got a final quote determination from the regional office in Chicago. And basically said, we're above the law.
And if you ever notice, they don't have a license plate on their vehicles. They have a number. So,
But that's in other states too, non-licensed, non-rated vehicles.
so that's a little bit of the frustration that we're going to be looking at going forward. If we don't get something resolved, we may have to ask, you know, give us a list of your motor routes, and citizens on those routes, we're not going to be able to help that. Because you really can't take the mailbox and put it curbside, because all of a sudden now you create a traffic hazard. So we're darn we do, darn we don't.
Are they driving up on the sidewalks that are elevated off the street?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care, they're like this, and riding on it.
Maybe we need to help
And so,
More elevated.
case in point, when we first did Cherry Street, I got a phone call from someone that said, our kids were out with their bicycles and playing, and the postal carrier said, you can't park your bicycles on the sidewalk because that impedes our delivery of the mail. So,
Is, I know, I got a lot said about that. I know you get into issues and sometimes it's hard, I don't know if we can restart with them or not, but is it up to the carriers? Because I fought this 20 years ago, when I first closed off in front of my house and with the sidewalk, and we used to have a drive that just parked right in the front of the window. And I made that new yard into that, and I simply asked the carrier, and I've gone through 3 carriers since then, not to drive on my sidewalk. And they don't. It's funny because they'll pull up on the neighbors to get off, put a line, go up, and then they'll be back on. But is it up to the carriers, or is it something where we can just say, hey,
we think it's the local postmaster who's not going to make that change in determination. It really starts at the local level with the postmaster. And our relationship with the Postal Service has declined over the last 18 months since we tried to enforce our ordinances. And we've seen some repercussions in our mail delivery for the city as a whole, as well as from the city government. And so we're trying to work those issues through, but it's very frustrating.
What they're doing is destructive, and it's not even safe.
So, okay, moving on.
I'll go through these last 2 sections pretty quickly. So 158 is planning and zoning. This includes like your BZA and those types of boards. I will tell you there is a little bit of overlap with this in the planning commission. The reason for that is you'll see planning and zoning and unsafe both are in this category. They are not on the property tax roll. Both departments have cash reserves. So we haven't included them in the property tax roll just because they can use their cash, because neither one of them draw. Unsafe, which is on page 161, if you look at their secretary line and just overall line, you'll see that there's not much being budgeted for that, just because the members on unsafe have chosen they're donating their time, so they're not charging the city for their time on that. So there's really no expense. That's why we haven't put really anything on the property tax roll itself. Now, if that changes and they start drawing down the cash to a different level, then we'll have to have another discussion. But currently, neither one is really draining on anything, so that's why we're kind of taking that approach. Then we go into the debt section, which starts on 165. We've talked about this a little bit. You will see Park Bond 2018 on there. You will see Go Bond 2021 on there on 165. However, you will see on fiscal year 2027, nothing is allocated for those because we are paying those off this year. So you truly have 3 bonds after this year. So you'll see that your fiscal year debt bond payment is going from almost 2.1 million to almost 1.6 million. And then if you go to the next page, 166, basically just gives a breakdown of those payments and when those pay off. Hopefully we'll be able to get those off the books a little bit quicker than what their payoff is, but that is their current payoff. It's right below, it's like RDA bond 2021, you see the payoff right below that. And then after that, it's just the demographic section. We did not come up with this. We had a third party provide us some information. I just did this to kind of give you some demographic information because it was requested to include that. And then towards the back, we just put a general glossary. Again, that's something we just try to include. So if there's anything you want to add to those in the future, just let me know. We can tweak that. But we just thought it's kind of useful information to have. Has no bearing on the budget, but just so you have it. And that is your proposed 2027 budget.
I got a question about, in the future, maybe the whole council get together, or, I don't want to say walk your area, your districts, to determine some of these sidewalks that need to be replaced in our areas. You know what I mean? Some that haven't been done since the 70s or 80s, they're under dirt, but then we're putting sidewalks on top and changing everybody's, not everybody's, I don't want to say that, but changing people's coming out of their houses. Now they gotta change their sidewalks to meet the city sidewalks, so they don't have to step down and step back up. Maybe propose a certain area in your district that sidewalks do need to be replaced, and have the superintendent come out and look at them, talk it over, mayor involved, all that kind of stuff.
We can take that under advisement. What we've done, first of all, is look at safeties around the school, and then anything that we've received lawsuits over. We've got one that's possibly going to be pending down here on Walnut Street, where a lady fell a couple weeks ago. She ended up having to be taken to Methodist, and we're waiting. And that was just a little bit of a gap, about less than an inch, where she got caught and went down. So those are areas that we're really focusing on right now. But yeah, I mean, if you
That's just for the future.
Yeah, if you want to put something together and bring it in, and we look at it as a whole. Because again, if we want to try to do this a fairly long runs, and when we started the sidewalks in 21, we started up on North Mulberry, North Marion, North Cherry. We did get to one on Cherry. On Cherry, we wanted to go all the way to Douglas, but we were questioning how we're going to get around that drainage ditch. So we never finished that, but we did finish that last year or the year before. So now it does go all the way over. So, yeah, if you want to get some branches and open the.
This is the future, everybody involved thing.
Yeah, as you said, Josh said, I mean, the other way to do it, instead of all getting together, in the past, we used to, councilman would do that, and then the mayor and superintendent would have their list as well, and then you just submit from your area, and then they'd look and say, hey, yep, we've got this one on our list already, or no, we don't, we'll take a look at it, and that way, you got it, have to meet, with everybody, go over it, and that way, you just put it in their hands, and they can take a look. Like I said, they've got the priority tops, like the schools in different areas, and we in that way get some in every district.
One of the things that we are looking at now, we tried for an over grant twice on stormwater drainage down Home Avenue. We talked with a company 3 weeks ago, and they've given us some encouragement to try it again. Excuse me, and the amount of money we have in our stormwater fund, we're looking at going down home from Columbus, and then coming west on a couple of those blocks to try to tie in some stormwater grants. And again, we were looking at the next phase of sidewalks that are being down in that area close to the high school. We may adjust that with this project coming in too. But a lot of it will do when we get an Oker grant for that.
We're trying to do the sidewalks by need, but phase 5, there's more sidewalk. We've done a lot of the northwest part of town. We're getting more, we're hitting that, but when we get down there, by the old McDonald's, that whole area, phase 5 is Walnut Street all the way down to South Street. From Main to Home Avenue, all those east-west. So we're gonna light up that neighborhood with sidewalks. And that's really how we're doing it. We can get the best bang for our buck, and it is also based on need.
So we're not doing sidewalk anymore, are we?
No, it's all bid, because I can get a better price on it.
I understand, they can't just pick that up over there and do 200 foot and jump back over there and do it.
Yep. No, they can do, 300 feet a day and then some.
In 21, we really thought we would be better off doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And didn't take into consideration guys having time off, guys getting sick. We had a really good crew. Rodney was kind of cheering it for us. But then when you had 3 guys take off and 2 guys working, you can't pour on a day like that. So those were learning curves for us. That doesn't make sense.
Mayor Kennedy, if a citizen knows that they are not in that area to be done, is there any consistent still if they want to pay if there's done or anything?
No, Phil, it was done for decades, and we got because of that. So the best way, the decision the mayor made was the only way we're ever gonna get sidewalks throughout the city, we have to do it. Now, if somebody really wants a sidewalk, they can do it, put it in. But the days of the 50/50.
That's what I'm asking.
No,
Can they, if they're not on that list and they want to get their sidewalk in, can they do that?
Yeah, they can do it themselves.
That's all.
Bob Schrader, we're going to let them know the requirements, the specs that it needs to be met. So then if it's in the middle of the section, we come down in 3 years, no, we're not going to tear theirs out, we are going to go around.
That's what I want to check. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one quick question, and maybe I need to put on the agenda for our next city council meeting, but, do we have anything on the books for drones? The reason being, Chief Manley, maybe you can help me with this. I had read on social that there was a drone situation over the pool, in the park.
Yeah, so, it's an active investigation. I can promise you this, it is being taken very serious. We just got the download. We've gotten more requests and more returns for that footage, and we received it yesterday at return. From my understanding, the drone crashed, and we were able to recover it. So we're working on that as we speak. And I don't know what you're referring to as like conversation, but specifically that incident.
Yes, I mean, because that's very, concerning, and I don't know if we have any laws or regulations, but that's very concerning.
Yeah.
Very concerning.
The FAA has rules and regulations with drones that are a lot more strict than what our ordinances would be. So, again, it's ongoing investigation, I can't make any comment, but.
I'd like to see some kind of,
It's concerning.
something, law or whatever, about drones, particularly in a public space like the park and the pool.
Yeah. Your concerns are understood, rightfully so.
Any other questions?
Not a question, but more of a statement. Just thank you to Mr. Mayor and your group for putting this nice visual together, and thank you to council and administration for being aggressive and paying things off to help hopefully alleviate some of the burden that might pursue with loss of revenue in the future. So thank you.
Now, and I know this is a lot to look at, so, take it home, look at it, if you have questions, let's still be in conversation. The revenue side, like Ben said, we'll know the latter part of August for sure what we're going to get. But I can't tell you how appreciative I am that all 7 of you are here today and how engaged this has been. And if I'm gonna be completely transparent, I thought we'd be here 30 minutes now. So I am so glad that we took the time to go through this. So thank you, each of you. So don't take any more of your Saturday. Go enjoy the day.
And we have